You're listening to The Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with Lyndia Grant.
Well, good evening, Radio 1 listeners. It's good to be here with you this afternoon. You're listening to the Lyndia Grant Show, Spirit 1340, WYCD, the oldest gospel radio station in D.C., and it is the first contemporary gospel outlet in the United States of America. Today is Black Friday, November 25th, 2022, the biggest shopping day of the year. We've got a shopping treat just for you today. My guest is Paula I Carr, author of a children's book series. Welcome to the show today, Paula.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right. Our show is heard throughout the DMV live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And we are on YouTube each and every week. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Look for the Lyndia Grant Show. Welcome to the show. We also have today's weekly guest, Dr. Julian Malvo, nationally known economist and dean at Cal State Los Angeles. She's also a resident of the District of Columbia. She is one of two president emeritus at Bennett College, and she has her PhD in economics, though she talks about politics on our show every week. She is a world traveler and speaker, president of Push Excel, the youth organization founded by Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson out of Chicago, Illinois. Welcome to the show again today, Dr. Julian. Let's talk politics.
Yeah, it's great to be with you today, Lyndia, and happy Thanksgiving week to you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving to all the listeners out there.
Absolutely.
Go right ahead and talk to us today.
You know, usually after Thanksgiving, the week of Thanksgiving is a very slow news week. You don't hear a whole lot. People are getting ready. Congress is out of session. People are getting ready to do whatever they're going to do. But this has been a very busy news week, partially because we've had two mass shootings in the past week.
Yeah.
On Saturday, the crazed gunman went, of course, and shot up a GBLTQIA bar, Club Q, in Colorado Springs. Killing many people, wounding as many. And then, closer to home in D.C., a young man in Chesapeake at a Walmart in Chesapeake killed 6 people, including a 16-year-old and a 70-year-old. I don't know what's going on, but it really is quite startling to see these kinds of things happen. And, of course, President Biden has responded. He says he has vowed to use the lame duck session to try to get a ban on assault weapons. He's tried, other presidents have tried time and again, but of course, you know, you have some folks who do not believe, or they believe that it's their right to have assault weapons. And so I don't think the president is going to be successful. I hope he will be, but I don't think he will be because there are so many Republicans, frankly, who basically are adamantly opposed to any limitations on gun ownership. But the lame duck session has a lot more than that to deal with. If they can't get some things done, it's going to be a hot monkey mess in January. We are looking at a government shutdown on December 16th unless legislation is passed to raise the debt ceiling and to extend the current budget. We're looking at the DOD budget, the Department of Defense budget, which also needs to be passed before December 16th. We're looking at legislation in the Senate to assert marriage equality and basically to get the Supreme Court, as in Clarence Thomas, out of overturning any laws that allow not only gay marriage, but also interracial marriage. That's also on the hopper. Now, one would think that somebody who was married to a white woman might not dangle that out as something they might eliminate, but certainly in his essay about Dobbs, in his defense about Dobbs, he certainly put out there that anything can be placed on the table. So this lame duck session, which will begin on Monday, and can go as late as Christmas. Frankly, well, not Christmas, but it can go as late as mid to late December, and they can be back for the last week of December if Congresswoman Pelosi chooses to do so. She is the Speaker of the House still. Of course, we know that this is going to be interesting. Jim Clyburn, and Steny Hoyer have all said they're not going back for their leadership positions, which leaves a new generation. Hakeem Jeffries probably as Speaker. And I say probably. We don't know what's going to happen because things can shift. The Jeffries, of course, Catherine Clark out of Massachusetts, and Pete Aguilar out of California are all slated to replace Pelosi, Clyburn, and Hoyer. Meanwhile, we know that the Democrats are fighting about the primary calendar. And it's interesting. Those of us who are of color understand that New Hampshire and Iowa, being the first two primaries, is not representative of the nation. But John Sununu, governor of New Hampshire, says he's going to fight to keep his primary first. We'll see what happens with that. In terms of Iowa, the contenders to replace Iowa are either Michigan or Minnesota, but there's also some drama there. Meanwhile, good news, although it doesn't change anything, Sarah Palin got her butt beat like a drum. It takes a long time to get results from Alaska because of the way they count, but she has been beaten. It's all over. So now you can sit home. Now you can sit home, look out your window, and see if you can see the Soviet Union. you thought you could do back in the day.
So you can see Russia.
Yep. Meanwhile, of course, Carrie Lake, the Trump-backed candidate in Arizona, has already filed a lawsuit. She filed it on Wednesday. She says that the process was flawed, but she said that before the votes were even counted. So what's new, lady? But anyway, she has indeed filed a lawsuit. Last thing, I know I'm running out of time, but I will take up 2 minutes to talk about Ukraine. In the lame duck session, what will happen in the lame duck session around Ukraine? You know that Marjorie Taylor Greene has said they don't want to give any more money to Ukraine. So, this is yet another open question. And then finally, you raise the issue about shopping, and yes, I am an economist. And folks, stack your money. You don't know what's going on. But what we do know is that 8 million more people planning to shop today, so-called Black Friday. We call it Black Friday because it's a day that people break even, not because Black folks get anything. Keep that in mind. But in any case, 8 million more shoppers. Each of them, most families have a budget for holiday shopping of about $1,000, between $950 and $1,000 average. The question is, will people spend all that? Do they have so much money left from COVID? And what do you think is going on? My advice to people, again, is stack your money. Don't spend it if you don't have to. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 months. That's it for me today, Lyndia.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Julian. I appreciate you so much. All righty.
Thank you.
Listen to the Lyndia Grant Show. We're going to go to a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking to our second guest, Miss Paula I Carr. She is the author of a 5 children's book series. So it's called Hey Honey, and we want you to tune in and tell all of your friends who have children, here's a book series you might want to purchase for their Christmas gifts of children in your family and friends. Back in a moment.
If it wasn't for my care coach at AmeriHealth, I probably wouldn't be so healthy right now. As a man, we don't get checkups or see a doctor regularly anyways. It's probably just a man thing because none of my partners go either. We know we should, but we just don't, and hope it works out.
So what changed for you?
AmeriHealth assigned me a care coach, somebody that gives one-on-one help, answer questions, explain things and helped set my appointments. She also helped me understand what having high blood pressure really means and ways to manage it so it doesn't kill me. It ain't nothing to play with. If you're a member of AmeriHealth, ask for a care coach. I'm glad I got mine.
At AmeriHealth, if you need a care coach, you can have one. Just call us at 1-877-759-6224 to get connected. 1-877-759-6224. This program is funded in part by the government of the District of Columbia Department of Healthcare Finance. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Washington and former religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
Who Moved My Cheese is a book about two types of people, those who accept change quickly and move on, and those who hem and haw and try to figure things out. They didn't see change coming and waste valuable time trying to figure out what happened. How did this happen to me? Let's call this group procrastinators. The lesson inside the cheese story is simple. Life is change. Brother said it best when he said, if I accept you as you are, I will make you worse. However, if I treat you as though you are what you're capable of becoming, I help you become that. We must change and keep moving. The Bible tells us to seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open unto you, ask and it shall be given.
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at WashingtonInformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information.
This is Frank Smith with the African-American Civil War Museum in Washington, D.C., located at 1925 Vermont Avenue Northwest on the Green Line. Did you know that a recent study found that children who visit museums do better in school and in life than children who do not? So parents, teachers, and preachers, let's get moving. I promise you, if you bring your children to the African American Civil War Museum, they will be inspired by the images that they see. They will be impressed by our living history reenactors who are always available, and they will be involved in our scavenger hunt that takes them throughout our exhibit. That's the African American Civil War Museum, 1925 Vermont Avenue. Our hours are 10 to 6:30 on weekdays, 12 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. See it, be inspired.
And we are back. You're listening to the Lyndia Grant Show here on Spirit 1340 WYCB. We've been on for 12 years now. Our guest the second half of the show is Miss Paula I. Carr. She is the author of a 5 children's book series for children ages 2 through 8 years old, and it's called Hey Honey. And they are her books that were inspired by her English bulldog, who was Paula's loyal pet before Honey passed away. In addition to being a successful author, Paula is a career management professional living in Washington, D.C. She is currently working with the HBCU CDAU, that is the Community Development Action Coalition. She spent decades working for government, for-profit, and nonprofit organizations. In the book series Honey, the inspirational protagonist guides readers through the storytelling of life lessons that help to prepare children for new experiences and life events such as starting school and experiencing snow for the first time. Thank you for being here today, Paula, to share about your new book series. And I want to also let people know this, in case you love Auntie Maxine. This is Auntie Maxine Waters, Congresswoman from California. This is her niece. And I want to just introduce you. Welcome to the show, Paula.
You. Thank you so much, Lyndia.
All right. I thought it was important to let people know that research shows that reading daily to young children, starting as young as infancy, my daughter-in-law did that even while he was in her belly, can help them to build skills such as language acquisition, communication skills, social skills, and literacy skills. For decades, the character Clifford, the big red dog, has been the standard for preschool learning. Your books, which were first published in 2017, came about at the spark of a modern renaissance of Black authors who are bringing their voices to the children's storytelling space. We know that having successful Black authors matters because it inspires future generations of children to have the confidence to tell their stories through books. We want to hear more about your journey as an author, Paula. So first, tell us how this book series is helpful to children and how it came about.
Sure. Lyndia, as you stated, we all know that storytelling plays a critical role in the overall development of preschoolers. And so the list of benefits is really enormous. One, it exercises the brain. It improves concentration and the ability to focus. It builds literacy. It reduces stress. And it also increases general knowledge. And it's a free form of entertainment that's actually motivational. But the Hey Honey Children's book series, it helps children to experience realities outside of their lives, and by putting themselves in the shoes of the narrator, which is Honey. And Honey helps children to build empathy and understanding of others. So there's a lot more benefits to reading to children just than the ability just to help them fall asleep.
Amen. Yes, indeed. This delightful character, Honey, is very personal to you, Paula. Tell us about Honey. It reminds me of a dog we had named Bobo. He was inspired. He inspired you to write this book series. Tell us about Honey.
So, long story short, I actually was working in a firm, and I've always said, I want to get a bulldog. And, long story short, I applied online, never heard anything. One of my coworkers, actually a manager, says, hey, I think I have a bulldog for you. Sent me a picture. Next thing I know, I own Honey. At that time, her name was Mocha. But I will tell you that once I got Honey, I really saw how special she was. There was no way that I could walk down the street and get from point A to point B. Honey was very special. Honey also was a certified therapy dog. And so two things happened. One, I've always wanted to write, and I've always shared that. I shared that with a few people, and I would sit home and write stories and what have you, in my notebooks that, I never shared with anyone else, but I just write. But it was a secret goal of mine. But when I got Honey, I will tell you, it was just clear. And I saw how she was and how she was with other people and how people were with her. And then she started doing she started going to the Veterans Hospital and nursing homes. She was part of a group called PALS, People, Animal, and Love. So I decided I was going to write stories about her. And I started writing these stories actually in 2011. But I wanted to, I didn't want to just write to write. I wanted to write stories that I knew that would resonate with children. And around that time, the country was kind of going south, in terms of morality and, things were just we were not being nice to each other. We were not talking nice to each other. And people don't understand when we're doing all this talking, children, you may think they're not paying attention, but they're paying attention. And I thought, let me write something in Honey's voice that children will understand and can resonate with. So through Honey, children are learning empathy and understanding other people. So I will tell you, if you look at some of the topics that the books cover, like in the first day of school, which covers, what to expect when making friends at school for the first time. My favorite spot, teaching about sharing and giving up stuff, accommodating.
Paula,
yes.
Each one of these a separate book, one of your 5? Is that what you're explaining now?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, so, there are 5 books. So there's the first day of school, My Favorite Spot, Honey Comes Home, The Scary Airy Basement, and I Love Snow. And as I said, in the first day of school, it basically covers, what a child expects in preparing to making new friends at school or addressing bullying. My Favorite Spot teaches about sharing and giving up things to accommodate others. It teaches empathy. Hey Honey Comes Home chronicles Honey's experience in the journey of adoption, and it teaches about adjusting to new environments. The Scary Airy Basement it just teaches children a lesson, that things are not so scary in real life as it is in their head. It teaches them about conquering fear. And I let us know it's just a book that teaches about good friendship and enjoying experiencing each other together. And I have to tell you, I've gone to schools and done readings, and I am so pleasantly surprised that the children actually get it. And I listen to their comments that they make. I was at school once, and Honey comes home. The little boy doesn't want the dog doesn't want Honey now because he thought Honey was a boy and found out Honey was a girl, and he didn't want Honey. And one of the kids was like, well, he didn't deserve Honey. I don't think he would have been a good fit. And I just thought, okay, they get it. They get the story.
Do you have any that are more popular than others, or they love all of them?
It's interesting. That's an interesting question because it really depends on the time of the year. The Scary Airy Basement, of course, is gets more attention around Halloween time. Believe it or not. I think, they ask me, people ask me which is my favorite book. I would have to say my favorite book is My Favorite Spot because it really shows the lesson of empathy that Honey learns and accommodating someone else. There's a little girl, Lala, in the book that Honey learns to, but he initially did not want the little girl to take her seat, but they become friends. I think that I think Honey Comes Home probably is the most popular if I think about it.
Okay. Well, you know what? I want to tell people how they can get it. They can buy the whole set, or can they buy one at a time?
They can buy all 5 books at one time, but they can buy one at a time. The books come both in softback form and e-form. You can do an e-books or you can do the softback books. But I would tell you that I really encourage people to get the hardback, especially for the smaller children, because I think too much digital content is not healthy for the developing eye. And then just engaging with paper books also helps children to develop the touch and feel connections.
Yes, Tell them how they can find it. I'm sure it's on Amazon.
Yes, absolutely. The books are on Amazon. You can actually get them on BarnesandNobles.com. You can go to the website, which is heyhoney.org. And if you're not having some issues or anything, just email me at honey@heyhoney.org.
I was going to say, in case somebody listening, a teacher might want to have you come and read in the library. Is there any way they can call you, or you rather get emailed?
I prefer if they email me.
Okay, say that email again.
The email address is honey, HONEY, at heyhoney, HEYHONEY.org.
Okay. And now, before we go, summarize this by telling me a little bit about how long you had Honey and maybe a good story about Honey in your personal life.
In my personal life, well, it's just so many stories with Honey because, she was absolutely so sweet. So I will tell you, like I mentioned earlier, you mentioned that, my career basically I have been a operations executive assistant, person for a long time. But I've always wanted to write. And Honey was, once I got Honey, she was my inspiration to, so I will tell you a story. When I first got her, I remember it was January the 10th of 2010. And I brought her home. That next week, we had that real big snow, and we couldn't get outside. And so it's like, I'm trying to shovel a path out the back or the front so she can go outside to relieve herself. And so one day, maybe a week or so afterwards, I got her outside, and I was standing in the door, and I went back to get a coat, a jacket to put on, and I go back outside. I don't see her. I don't see her anywhere, but I don't see footprints or paw prints in the snow. And I'm thinking, what happened to the thought? I went into a panic, and just so happened a neighbor of mine 2 doors away was outside, and he comes over and he gets in the yard. Honey is under the deck already.
All right. Well, thank you, Paula.
She was sweet. She was my girl.
That was a good story about Honey. You got to write a story about that too. All right. Well, we have been talking to Paula I Carr, the niece of Congresswoman Maxine Waters, and we want you to order for Black Friday books for your children and grandchildren. She told you all the places to go. Go to Barnes & Noble and go to Amazon and look for the Hey Honey book series and look for her name, Paula I Carr. All right. We thank you for being our guest today. And I also thank all of the people that have been working with me to get us ready for this show. We thank you for a good show today, Paula. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lyndia.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. That does it for our show this week. Tune in again next week. We're going to have another author on. Next week, our guest is going to be Dr. Gwyneth Ford Lacey. She's going to be talking about a new book she has written entitled Madam PhD. We invite you to come out and join us at our church every week. My church is the All Nations Baptist Church, where our pastor is Reverend Dr. James Coleman, and we're located at number 2 Rhode Island Avenue Northeast. That's right at North Capitol and Rhode Island Avenue. Look for the church with the red doors. We worship each Sunday morning, beginning at 10 a.m. With a Bible study, and then we have our worship service, a short worship service. We hope this show with Paula I. White and Dr. Julian Malvo have been helpful. Earl Nightingale once said, words, thoughts, and deeds have a boomerang effect. So be careful what you send out. We do become what we think about. And Scripture says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. So think on these things from the Lyndia Grant Show. I'm your host, Lyndia Grant. Until next week, good day.
Thank you for listening to the Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with your host, Lyndia Grant.